Have you ever worried about money? Felt that anxiety in the pit of your stomach when a bill arrives? Or dreamed of a life of abundance, only to find your bank account telling a different story? What if I told you that prosperity isn't something you chase, but something you command? That your words hold the power to unlock the infinite supply of the universe? Welcome back to Frequency Chapters. Chapter summaries enhanced with sound frequencies for focus, healing, and abundance. Today we are continuing our journey into the timeless classic, The Game of Life and How to Play It by the incredible Florence Scovel Shinn. We're diving deep into the second chapter, The Law of Prosperity, to uncover how you can speak your abundance into existence, enhanced with a Solfeggio frequency called wealth. So, what's the secret to unlocking this infinite supply? The scriptures tell us one of the greatest messages given to humanity. God is your supply, and you can release everything that belongs to you by divine right, through your spoken word. But there's a condition. You must have perfect faith in the words you speak. As the prophet Isaiah said, "My word shall not return unto me void, but shall accomplish that where it is sent." We now understand that our thoughts and our words are a tremendous vibratory force. They are constantly molding our bodies, our health, and our financial affairs. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. A woman came to me in absolute despair. She was being sued for $3,000, with the deadline just days away on the 15th of the month. She had no idea where the money would come from and was overwhelmed with fear. I told her that God was her supply, and that for every demand, there's a supply waiting to be claimed. So, I spoke the word for her. I gave thanks that she would receive the $3,000 at the right time, in the right way. I instructed her that her part was to have perfect faith, and more importantly, to act with perfect faith. The 15th of the month arrived, but the money hadn't materialized. She called me in a panic, asking what she should do. I told her, "It's Saturday, so they won't sue you today. Your job is to act rich, showing your perfect faith that the money will arrive by Monday." To help bolster her courage, she asked me to have lunch with her. When we met at the restaurant, I was firm. "This is no time to economize," I said. "Order an expensive luncheon. Act as if you have already received the $3,000. You see, the rule of the game is, all things whatsoever ye ask in prayer, believing, ye shall receive." You must act as if you have already received it. The next morning, she called again, asking me to stay with her for the day. I refused, saying, "No, you are divinely protected, and God is never too late." That evening, my phone rang. It was her, buzzing with excitement. "Miss Shinn," she exclaimed, "a miracle has happened. I was sitting in my room this morning when the doorbell rang. I told my maid not to let anyone in, but the maid looked out the window and said, 'It's your cousin with the long white beard.' The woman changed her mind. 'Call him back. I'd like to see him.' He was just turning the corner when he heard the maid's call and came back. They talked for about an hour, and just as he was leaving, he asked, 'Oh, by the way, how are your finances?' She told him she needed money, and he replied, 'Why, my dear, I will give you $3,000 on the 1st of the month.' She was in a new predicament. She didn't want to tell him about the lawsuit, but the money was due tomorrow, not at the 1st of the month. What should I do? I told her, "I'll keep on treating." I affirmed, "Spirit is never too late." I give thanks she has received the money on the invisible plane, and that it manifests on time. The very next morning, her cousin called her. "Come to my office this morning, and I will give you the money." That afternoon, she had $3,000 in her bank account, writing checks as fast as her excitement would allow. This story reveals a crucial principle. You cannot prepare for failure and expect success. If you ask for abundance but secretly plan for lack, you will get the situation you prepared for. For example, a man came to me asking me to speak the word that a specific debt of his would be wiped out. But I soon discovered that he was spending all his time mentally rehearsing what he would say to the person he owed when he couldn't pay the bill. His thoughts of failure were neutralizing my words of faith. He should have seen himself paying the debt. Let me tell you about another woman. She needed to find an apartment in New York during a year when there was a massive housing shortage, considered nearly impossible. Her friends felt sorry for her. Isn't it unlucky? You'll have to store your furniture and live in a hotel. But she refused to accept their reality. She replied, "You needn't feel sorry for me. I'm Superwoman, and I'll get an apartment." She spoke the words. Infinite Spirit opened the way for the right apartment. She knew there was a supply for every demand, that she was unconditioned, working on the spiritual plane, and that one with God is a majority. She had been thinking about buying new blankets, but then the tempter, that voice of doubt and reason, crept in. It suggested, "Don't buy the blankets. What if you don't get an apartment? You'll have no use for them." She immediately replied to herself, "I'll dig my ditches by buying the blankets." She prepared for the apartment, acting as though she already had it. And in a miraculous way, she found one. It was given to her even though there were hundreds of other applicants. The blankets were a demonstration of her active faith. Now, getting into this spiritual swing of things isn't always easy. The adverse thoughts of doubt and fear can surge from the subconscious mind. They are the army of the aliens that must be put to flight. This is why it so often feels darkest before the dawn. A big demonstration is often preceded by tormenting thoughts. When you make a statement of high spiritual truth, you challenge the old, limiting beliefs in your subconscious. That error is exposed so it can be cast out. This is precisely the time when you must repeat your affirmations of truth. Rejoice and give thanks that you have already received. As the scripture says, "Before you call, I shall answer." This means that every good and perfect gift is already yours, simply awaiting your recognition. You can only receive what you can see yourself receiving. The children of Israel were told they could have all the land they could see. This is true for every one of us. You only possess the land that exists within your own mental vision. Every great work, every big accomplishment, has been brought into reality by holding to the vision. And very often, just before the big achievement, comes apparent failure and discouragement. This is almost every person's experience when facing a great opportunity. However, the one who knows spiritual law is undisturbed by appearances. They rejoice while they are yet in captivity. They hold to their vision and give thanks that the end is already accomplished, that they have already received. So you must always hold the vision of your journey's end and demand the manifestation of the thing you have already received. Whether it's perfect health, love, supply, self-expression, a home, or friends. These are all finished and perfect ideas registered in divine mind, your superconscious mind. And they must come through you, not to you. Let's look at one final example. A man came to me asking for treatments for success. He urgently needed to raise $50,000 for his business within a very short time. The time limit was almost up when he came to me in despair. No one wanted to invest, and the bank had flatly refused him a loan. I said to him, "I suppose you lost your temper at the bank, and therefore you lost your power. You can control any situation if you first control yourself." I told him, "Go back to the bank, and I will treat." My treatment was, "You are identified in love with the spirit of everyone connected with the bank. Let the divine idea come out of this situation. He was incredulous. "Woman, you're talking about an impossibility. Tomorrow is Saturday. The bank closes at 12. My train won't even get me there until 10. And the deadline is tomorrow. They won't do it. It's too late." I replied, "God doesn't need any time and is never too late. With Him, all things are possible." I added, "I don't know anything about business, but I know all about God." He said, "It all sounds fine when I'm sitting here listening to you, but when I go out, it's terrible." He lived in a distant city, and I didn't hear from him for a week. Then a letter arrived. It read, "You were right. I raised the money, and I will never again doubt the truth of all that you told me." I saw him a few weeks later and asked, "What happened? You evidently had plenty of time. After all." "My train was late," he replied. "I got there just 15 minutes to 12. I walked into the bank quietly and said, 'I have come for the loan,' and they gave it to me without a question. It was in the last 15 minutes of the time allotted to him, and Infinite Spirit was not too late. In this instance, the man could never have demonstrated alone. He needed someone to help him hold the vision. This is what one person can do for another. Jesus Christ knew this truth when he said, "If two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven." We often get too close to our own affairs and become filled with doubt and fear. A friend or a healer can see the success, health, or prosperity clearly and never waver because they aren't emotionally entangled in the situation. It is often much easier to demonstrate for someone else than for yourself. So you should never hesitate to ask for help if you feel yourself wavering. A keen observer of life once said, "No man can fail if some one person sees him successful." Such is the power of the vision, and many a great person owed their success to a wife, a sister, or a friend who believed in them and held, without wavering, to the perfect pattern. Thank you for joining us for the Frequency Enhanced Chapter Book Summary of The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. If this resonated with you, please support our channel, Frequency Chapters, and don't miss the next Frequency Enhanced Chapter Summary for focus, healing, and abundance.